This is a quick video to add to the already video I have on the basics of bringing trusses in and modifying them. This will go through kind of the same tools and then different ways of adding a roof. So under insert, you can go to load families, and in here you have the structural trusses, and this is where you're going to find all of your trusses themselves. And then also under structural framing, you can go to steel and find some of the joists like the K series and some of the other popular steel joists that we use. But under structural framing and wood, you can double click on dimensional lumber so that you can hold your control key down and load these different 2x into your project. And then once you do that, when you place your truss, you can then go to edit type and change your structural framing type here, so that the structural framing type is either going to be maybe a 2x4 construction for a prefabricated truss, or maybe you're creating a truss that's made out of angles and rods that you've loaded from the structural framing, so that you can change here the top chord, the vertical webs, diagonal webs, and bottom chord under structural framing type. And of course, if you wanted to create your own, you can pick the duplicate button and then duplicate that truss, save it as a different name, and then make changes so that you can end up with different truss configurations. Just so you know, under structural, you'll use the structural tab, you'll use truss to place these truss members, and beam to place the bar joists or the different joists configurations. Maybe you've seen that already. Now that you have it in place and you're in the plan view, you want to be able to maybe array these. Somebody had asked a question about arraying these roof trusses and joists. You can select that member and pick array, and then you want to click at the top here in the options bar, this radial right here icon, and then you notice that their blue dot becomes the center, so you can hold your left mouse button down on that blue dot, which becomes kind of the center point, and drag it over outside of that truss so that we can array it. And then you click a point here for the beginning of your angle that you want to use, and if you just pull your mouse up, what you're doing is you're establishing the angle between the trusses. You can also type it in here. So let's say I want to have 10 degrees between each angle. I'll click, and I've decided on 3 of them, but maybe I can change the number to 8. And if I do that, then I end up with 8. I'll just change it here. Press enter. So this is one way that you can start to array these roof truss or whatever members you're going to be working with. Once you have those in place, I'll go to the 3D view. You can then select those roof trusses or trusses that you're working with and ungroup them. You'll need to ungroup them in order to use them. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these. So I'll just select all of these and pick ungroup. The original one needs to be ungrouped by itself. Once I ungroup them, I can select individually which ones I like to change and modify the start and end level. I think your question was about creating this kind of roof that would curve or have several different pitch or levels. So here I can make this one -4 for -4 feet, And if you look here, it would change then the end level offset to -4. And then maybe this one, I'd like this one to be higher. So I'll change this one to maybe 1 foot. And you see how it kind of goes up higher. So you're starting to manipulate the trusses. Once you have these in place, you have several different ways you can work with the roof. One way is to create just a flat roof. And that way I'll go over to level 1 and create a flat roof, or maybe level 2. Yeah, level 2. Under roof and roof by footprint, as long as you keep the check mark out of defined slope and you don't have an overhang, you can create here whatever shape you'd like using either a rectangle, or you could create here now this curve that comes around at the back and here by using spline or arcs. As long as it's a closed shape, you can go ahead and pick the green check mark, and then in the 3D view, and I said this is a quick video, you could select that roof and pick modify sub-elements and then get into these small little boxes in order to change here the slope higher or lower depending on how many points you have. So you can actually add points. So I can go ahead and pick add points. So if I add a point right in here, maybe I add quite a few, then I can go back and modify those points by picking modify sub-elements so that maybe one is, higher than the rest. It might give you this error, which sometimes the errors you can kind of ignore or not. Maybe that was a little too high, so I'll go with 2 feet. But eventually, if you have enough points, you can create a unique roof that kind of goes with your trusses. -2 in the front and the back, with here this idea of starting with a flat roof. See there here, if I wanted this to go up 7 feet, it would go even further. So you're starting to manipulate here the corners, the edges of the roof, so that they kind of follow the trusses. The other idea is to create a roof by using a category. So you can go up to component and model in place, and then use the roof category, and under the roof category you can give it a name and use any one of these types of commands that will help you to create unique forms, like the extrusion or the blend, the sweeps, revolves. The swept blend is one that you can have 2 different profiles, and the roof then would follow the path from one profile to another. So in this case, if I pick swept blend, what you would do then is to sketch a path. So I'm going to go ahead and create a path, but notice that the path has 2 profiles already. So if I sketch a path, and I'm done with this path, so I have to pick the green check mark. And now I have 2 different profiles. If I select one profile and pick, you can either select profile by clicking on this, or click on a profile and pick edit profile. So now I'm inside this profile. I could use the viewer. The viewer will give me a more defined view of that straight on. But for now, maybe my roof needs to be something that is zigzag. I'm just doing this kind of quickly so that you can see that we can have 2 different ends. So there's that profile. And now I'm done with that profile, so now I have to pick the green check mark. And I'd like to work on the other profile, so I click on the other profile and pick edit profile. And then maybe I can create this with splines. As long as this one is more of making sure that you have a closed shape. So I'm going to go ahead and create these different splines, and I'm actually putting a line between the splines because two splines together at the ends don't work really well. And so now I'll pick the green check mark, and now I'm back at the beginning of this sweat blend. I can pick the green check mark, and now this profile is going to go along that path and be connected with the other profile. And that's how this roof was created, one profile to another. So eventually when you create it, you can double click on it after you've created it. And in this case, I'm doing that so that you can see what was used for this sweat blend. There's one profile here and here. So in this way, you can create this very unique roof and adjust the trusses underneath, or create the trusses and then adjust the roof. Not this one as much as the other one that we just looked at. Just a couple of more roof concepts, although I do have another video just on roofs to answer your question and give you a little more options. You can create a roof by extrusion where you're creating one surface profile and following that profile as an extrusion, or you can go to massing and site, and once you've created, using here the new conceptual mass, unique shape with those tools, and that's another video, you can go to here, and I just want to show you this picture, the roof by face. And if you create a mass that has this unique upper portion, you can apply a face to that mass. Since we have these here in place, I'd like to also show you that if I double click, it will bring me back into that roof so that I can create a void if you need to have an opening in the roof. So the voids can be any one of these same tools. So if I just wanted a square void, I click on void by extrusion, and then maybe it's a rectangle here. And once I create that rectangle, whatever the size is, you can get into these numbers and work with it. You can click on the green check mark once for this void and use these little arrows to create an opening in that roof. When I click out in space, you'll see that that hole is there, but you can still modify it here if you need something a little bit different so that you can create a different opening in that roof. And then it's actually based on using all these draw tools. So I just double clicked on the void so that I could change this kind of sketch of it. So if I wanted to delete that and create, an arc as my opening, I could create an arc and pick the green check mark, and that void becomes a new shape for that opening. Continue picking the green check marks until you're back out. And don't hesitate to contact me if you need help or have any questions.